Hi, and welcome to Wrong Way. And this is my review of the BEGODE RS19 high torque. So let me tell you more about it. Wrong Way. Now, before we get any further into the review, the RS19 has been provided to me by mywheel.com, and if you want to buy an electric unicycle from mywheel, just type in the Wrong Way code at checkout and then you will receive a 5% discount. Now, this exact wheel is not the RS19 high torque. This is a RS19 high speed. And why is that? Well, I actually broke the RS19 high torque that I was testing, and more on that later. But I've done already 270 kilometers on the high torque, so I think that was enough time to give you guys an opinion about this wheel. But once again, sorry, I can't really show you how the high torque accelerates, how it performs right now today, as it just is not rideable. The BEGODE RS19 is now the new 18 or actually 19-inch flagship EUC in BEGODE's lineup. On first sight, it might look very similar to the MSP. If you haven't seen that review already, check link in the description. But actually, it's a totally new wheel by BEGODE. With a new hollow motor design with more power, both in high torque and high speed configurations, a new shell, new trolley handle, new lighting system, and much more. But the overall design of the wheel and the aesthetic stayed the same. It still has the 1800 watt-hour LG battery pack, I wish it was Samsung, and surprisingly enough, the range in my usual kind of wrong way driving or riding was totally the same as the MSP, around 65-70 kilometers in my style of riding. Both of the new motors have 2600 watts of nominal power, and definitely they feel more powerful, but because of the weight increase in this wheel, which weighs now around 27.5 kilograms, and the weight is really noticeable compared to the MSP and even MSX, you do need to struggle a bit more to get that power out of the wheel. It doesn't feel so agile or zippy as the MSP or MSX. At a full charge, I could easily go to around 55 kilometers an hour, maybe a bit faster, but this is also the top end limit, in my opinion, of a safe top speed in this wheel. My RS19 also came with the lower pedal hangers, so there was a bit less clearance for off-road riding or turns. It wasn't really a big deal, but for hardcore off-road enthusiasts this might be, so BEGODE actually went back to the higher paddle hangers in future versions of the RS19. But let's move on to the key hardware improvements in the RS19. The RS is now really a big fat boy. I mean, it's really muscular and wide, and actually the inner and outer shells are totally new. They're wider and different, and they house now a wider and more securely mounted trolley handle. Actually, the trolley handle also changed a lot. It's now higher off the ground, and the screws actually here on the inside have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 screws. So I think there was just 2 or 4 on the last one, and the trolley handle itself is also just bigger and a bit bulkier. and this mechanism feels a bit sturdier and better. You will also find a new charge port arrangement with 2 charge ports that can take up to 8 amps total of power, meaning that if you connect 2 standard GotWay chargers, it will charge from 0 to 100% in under 3 hours. Amazing! There's also a USB charge port, and they're also really securely sealed with this new charge flap. Now keep in mind that I still don't consider these charge ports to be really safe. I think that a XT90 plug or XLR port would be much better, and preferably on the side of the wheel, not on the top, where rain or some other stuff could just fall in and make a short circuit. Now the lift switch is underneath the handle. Pretty nifty, pretty cool. And the lights are a bit angled up in the front, so they don't blind people as much, but they still blind people a lot. I think it's not really that big of a change, but the sad part is if you have your pedals flat, then you see just less with these shining out in front. So you have to actually have your pedals a bit tilted up to see a bit more. Now it comes also with the cool LEDs up in the front, and there are several settings of that, and they also cycle through when you ride faster. I think that they should finally remove the option to change them with the triple press of the light switch, and you should be able to just, you know, leave it like this, just ride on, because I usually have my lights on. I mean, in the night, in the daylight, I can just ride with these now, but I sometimes flash them before in the intersection so people can see me, and then obviously the light changes. It's cool that in the rear you have also like the different presets, but if you just select the white light in the front, you get a red light in the rear, which also acts as a brake light. So this actually gets brighter when you brake, which is super cool. Fan is the same, it sounds the same, there's like no really big difference there. The tire is the CST tire. I think still that the H5102 tire is the best tire that ever was on a MSX or M Super, and sadly we didn't see any seal from the inside like we saw on the MSP, so that's a bit sad. Maybe they'll go back for it, or maybe it's just this model that doesn't have it. Other key features are the bigger Monster Pro footplates, bigger but still crappy sandpaper, the RS logo on the outside, and the beeper that indicates speed limits and whatnot is also now on the outside, which is very well audible, as well as a new red ring around the speakers, which sound about the same as the MSP. They're actually louder via an Android phone than an iPhone. Now all of that sounds really good and really promising, but is it really a worthy upgrade from, for example, a MSP? All the features are really cool, but when it comes to just the ride of this wheel, there's some things that really bother me. The first thing is pedal dipping, and we know that GotWays have pedal dipping in turns and when you have really quick successive bumps, but on the RS I felt them that they're just really way more noticeable and deeper than, for example, on a MSX. And this was really bothering me in off-road riding, or just having a good grip or good feel on the wheel when riding a bit faster. Now look, the holo motor is insanely powerful, and it's really amazing what it can do. It brakes insanely fast, it accelerates, it can definitely go up 45 degrees if the wheel would have enough traction. But in my version of the HT, after around 200 kilometers, I had some grinding in the bearing. Listen to that. This sounds really similar to the V11. So similarly to the V11, after a bit of rain rides, I think something could get into the bearings and started to make a bit of a noise. Now, I don't know which version will be good for that, but honestly, I'm not really yet sold on the idea of the holo motor. Number one, it creates more points of failure, more bearings, and two, they're just way heavier, and personally, I just like the feel of the MSP more. So if there would be a RS with the MSP motor, that'd be really cool and great, because once again, in the monsters, it might be an issue that you have to tighten the shims every now and then to prevent any loose points of friction on the axle, but on the MSP, I think that wasn't really that big of an issue. Okay, so now I'll tell you why my RS19 high torque doesn't ride anymore. Well, first of all, it fell from a 46-degree slope too many times. But the upside was that it actually kept on riding. There were some loose elements, some elements broken in the inner shell, but it wasn't really a big deal. But then, after a casual ride, and I had around 40% of the battery, I tried to go up several curbs, as I usually do in my test. This is a bit of a higher curb, so I was wondering if the pedal clearance would be enough. And after 3 curbs like this, it died. I think either something in the motor or the Hall sensors broke, and it cannot stay upright anymore. So it does need a new motor, but the main board actually is still intact. I don't know if it would happen the same way in the MSP or in another wheel, but this wheel has definitely seen some beating, and I'm really impressed that it held through the insane amount of falls on this 46-degree slope. What are my conclusions to the RS19, to the next generation of the M Super at GotWay, or BEGODE in this case? And I think in many areas they did really well. They added some proper lighting up in the front and in the rear, really cool RGB settings, and very useful white and red lighting. They changed the lift sensor to be just underneath the handle, which is really cool. They added dual charging for faster charging speeds, and a pretty cool charge flap up at the top to protect all of that. They upgraded the trolley handle, which is now really good, and if you know how to push the RS around and not pull it back, then it's really just a great trolley handle. I really can't tell you guys that this is a bad trolley handle. It's good. They increased the power both in the HT and the HS versions, which is cool, but I'm not really sure if the battery can really take that much of power. And honestly, I don't think it's like that big of a difference from the MSP to the RS. I think they're both extremely powerful, but the MSPs were already really powerful. So I think it's a small upgrade, but the question here is, how will the bearings survive all of that punishment on electric unicycles? And for now, my HT started sounding like the V11. I heard of a couple cases where the bearings in the RSs are just busted really quickly. So the question is if the manufacturers will manufacture the motors good enough keep on riding like we usually were riding on our electric unicycles. This leads me to the point. The M Super improvements are very similar to improvements in the car industry. So cars, like a certain model of a car just gets bigger, better, elongated, more room, more power then, and everything just gets bigger. And the question is, like, if there is room for a new M Super now that is smaller than that. And I think that there is. I have purchased the 1600 watt MSX, and it's just so much fun. You can feel the 5 kilograms lighter wheel so much. It has a bit less range, and it has of course less power, less torque. It has less everything, but what it has probably a bit more fun. Better balance, in my opinion. I can't do walk the dog on this one. It's narrower, so you can grip it better, you can put more power pads on that. And then I think once again there is a room now for a RS Lite or a MSP Lite, to remove the speakers, to remove the lift sensor, to make just everything lighter and create a really fun wheel, because I think that's really what the MSX was all about. And that's what also made it so popular, along with its reliability. And if GotWay and with BEGODE or GotWay will keep producing wheels which have a bit of a trouble in the bearing department, this won't be good for their business. So if you're still here, leave a like on the video, subscribe to see more content like this. I'll see you in the next video. See you soon.